As we continue to see the lawsuits stack up against gun bans at the U.S. Supreme Court in Illinois, you've got the Southern District case on the merits still moving forward, but there's plenty of other things happening across the country when it comes to gun bans and various types of other concerns around the issue of privacy for gun owners and so on. So let's go ahead and jump into some of what the Twitter sphere is highlighting in the past 24 hours, especially when it comes to different states. So it is Bishop on Air. Thanks for hanging out. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and be sure to join us each and every weekday morning. So let's go ahead and jump into this with the New Mexico Shooting Sports Association talking about legislation in New Mexico that brings about a comprehensive ban at different places, like polling places, for instance. And in particular, this measure apparently allows for concealed carry permit holders with their lawfully concealed firearms being exempt from the comprehensive firearm ban that passed New Mexico last night. You have the Firearms Policy Council pretty active on social media, highlighting a variety of things, including two Denver Democrats introducing a measure that would ban the purchase, sale, and transfer of a broad swath of semi-automatic firearms, and this seems to be similar to what Illinois is dealing with as well. Also introduced, you have the Firearms Policy Coalition talking about legislation to require gun owners to obtain liability insurance if they can't secure the insurance to petition a court to waive the requirement. So interesting to see different things popping up other than just gun bans. You've also got other states looking at insurance policies for those. Then you've got others raising the concern, Gun Owners of America talking about privacy for gun owners, and some representatives of the U.S. House asking Speaker Johnson to, protect the Second and Fourth Amendment rights of gun owners and limit warrantless government surveillance. So you've got this letter that you can read from the various Republicans talking about the access that some have to data of gun owners. Also, you've got oral arguments that took place yesterday in Washington, D.C. over the District of Columbia's ban on certain capacities of magazines. So you've got that as well here at play, and interesting to hear some of the oral arguments there. And we'll go ahead and check some of that out. In particular, you had the defense in this case in Washington, D.C., essentially saying that, hey, we need to ban these high-capacity magazines because you've got, these mass shootings that are happening. And if we limit the capacity to just 10, then when the assailant has to reload, that gives police or others responding the ability to act and take that individual out or neutralize that individual. So a lot of conversation in that hearing yesterday with the issue of common use, and is it just common use for self-defense, or are there other things that are of lawful use, like collecting or using for target practice or other things? Does it only have to be for self-defense? So again, the conversation in court yesterday with the D.C. case in the appeals panel, the questions they were asking were about common use, about dangerous and unusual, and whether or not there are analogs in history with these types of prohibitions. There was also conversation about, say, the common use aspect of, do they have the dangerous and unusual aspect before it becomes common use. And they talked about the NFA and the Tommy gun, and how the Tommy gun was used by gangsters primarily, and they were expensive, so they weren't necessarily as widely used by people or owned by people before the NFA took place. But the state argued that, well, if they waited 20 years, then those could have proliferated. So where's that sweet spot to make something dangerous and unusual? So you have that case, and at the tail end, there was some conversation about whether or not a preliminary injunction should be issued just for those who are the plaintiffs in that D.C. case, or for all of that circuit. And here's that conversation going back and forth. And let's fire it off. Give me a second here.
I agree, Judge Walker. If the court were to limit the PI to only these plaintiffs, the harm to the district would not be as significant as what we have said in our brief would happen if the court enjoined the law across the board. Right? I think it would be minimal. The only problem with that is I'm not sure why every other plaintiff would come in immediately thereafter, and it would just sort of result in this sea of litigation. And then eventually you would get, obviously, to a place where we think large capacity magazines would flood into the district. And this really happened in California. I mean, the plaintiffs have put forward no contrary evidence or rebutted the fact that for the 1 week in California where a district court judge did enjoin their large capacity magazine, 1 million large capacity magazines flooded into
I
California.
mean, it sounds like that means large capacity magazines are in pretty common use.
So interesting again to hear that argument about the common use. So that also happened yesterday in Washington, D.C. But other things going on across the gun control space. You've got others that are highlighting legislation that's passing elsewhere, including in Minnesota. You've got things being argued with their ability to have individuals under the age of 21 carry. So that bill's being challenged. You've also got the ongoing concerns over Second Amendment security and privacy in the national firearms industry. They tweeted this out yesterday about the U.S. Treasury Secretary not being able to or not wanting to tell Congress whether or not her department ordered financial institutions to spy on transactions of private and law-abiding citizens. So again, just some of the sampling of what's going on across the country when it comes to gun control measures. We'll obviously be tracking some of this stuff, but also you've got to take a look at what the Firearms Policy Coalition's doing in Illinois. They released this statement yesterday saying that they're going forward with their lawsuits about Illinois' safe places where you can't carry firearms. And in particular, they're highlighting how you've got in Rockford, the Firearms Policy Coalition looking for summary judgment in the lawsuit they're challenging Illinois' ban on carrying firearms in public transportation and public transportation facilities. So that is a measure that is also being challenged in Illinois, and we'll see if we can get some updates on where that's at in the weeks ahead. All right, so there you go, an overview of just what's happening in the space of gun control here with Bishop on Air. Appreciate you guys being here each and every weekday morning. Stay tuned. We've got plenty more to tackle here with Bishop on Air.